Not least, Mr. Tarkington.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I begin, I'd like to add a little bit about the history of this area, if I might, both about Camp Forest and about Arnold Engineering Center. Many of us may realize or may not realize this whole area where we are in several counties in Middle Tennessee was used as one of the largest combat maneuver training exercises in the 1940s by literally thousands of U.S. Army personnel, tanks, artillery pieces, half-tracks, jeeps, etc. And this area was chosen because of its similarity to the European theater, which was so beneficial during the invasion of Normandy in 1944. Coupled with that, the Air Force site, the Arnold Engineering site, was named for an individual that's really a unique person. He graduated from West Point, one of the first military aviators in the United States, even before there was an aviation branch. He was very instrumental in research and development of aircraft, primarily of engines and propulsion systems, and was very instrumental in development of long-range bombers, such as the B-17, B-24, and B-29, that were so successful during World War II. He also was instrumental in mid-air flight, which would extend the distances of those planes, of those aircraft. Towards his later career, he was a 5-star general, which is pretty impressive in the United States Army. When the United States Air Force was stood up in 1947, he transitioned as a 5-star general in the U.S. Army, or in the U.S. Air Force. He holds the designation of being the only individual to hold a 5-star general rank in 2 military branches, which is pretty impressive. Anyway, I just felt compelled to let you know. I appreciate your indulgence. I have a 2-page financial report that's in, or actually a 3-page, since we've added the interest earnings. Can I close this? On the first page at the top, top of the page, I'm reporting through the month of March. The boating fund is 11.7, almost 12% ahead of its same point in time this time last year, in their revenues. On the expense side, just a little bit more than half of the allotment has been expended. In the middle of the page, the Wildlife Fund, the income is 4.2% more than what was anticipated or what was forecast at the first of the year, which is obviously good. And the expenses approximate 52.5% of the annual allotment. At the bottom of the page, detail the watchable, both of the endowments. The watchable Wildlife Endowment has almost $47,000 available for transfer, and the Lifetime Sportsman account has almost $44.5 million as a balance. On the second page, the wetlands funds are detailed. The acquisition account has $17.5 million balance. We've zeroed the maintenance account out as we usually do. And the compensation, or in lieu of tax, has $846,000. Tim Churchill has communicated several times with both the Comptroller's Office and the Real Estate Division on receiving or inquiring about receiving those in lieu of tax payment certifications that we have to have before we can pay the compensation. We anticipate doing that in the next month. The third page, the last page, we started this, I guess, month before last. When I made the last presentation, this shows the earnings on the investment the Treasury has invested for us through the month of April. And as you can see, we have an earnings amount of $1,192,000, almost $1.2 million, which is 1.8%. And since then, we have asked to transfer $903,000, which was an amount that was earned off the endowment accounts as of last month in order to put that into the Wildlife Operating Fund, and that has been successfully transferred.
Thank you, sir.
Any questions or comments?
Any questions by the commission or anyone? Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
I have one.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
may I add one thing? While he was talking about Camp Forest, it reminded me that my father was head of the 191st Field Artillery and trained here at Camp Forest before heading the 191st Field Artillery in France, where he was killed in action when I was 3 months old.
My dad was here also. I have a picture in my office where he and his company's in front of the one of his barracks, and I appreciate you mentioning that.
We have several people serving the guard and whatever. We sure do appreciate that, guys. Director Carter, I mentioned the other day about to extrapolate maybe the cash flow consequences of a lifetime license for our future of the agency. I think we mentioned, I think you said Oklahoma's having a real problem or somebody. Anyway, I just want to remind you to please do that maybe by August. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Cox. Ken, thank you for making us hit the pause button and truly understand the history of this place. I greatly, greatly appreciate that. If there are no objections, we are going to go out of session so that the Government Relations Committee can convene in committee session to discuss the Asian Carp Advisory Task Force. Hearing no objections, Chairman Holbert, floor is yours.
We'll let Chris Richardson talk for about 30 seconds.
Thank you, Chairman Holbert, members of the commission. Come to you today, the General Assembly has adjourned sine die for the year. They'll be back to do more business next January, but one of the pieces of legislation that came out of this year's session that directly impacts the agency was Senate Bill 1753, sponsored by Mark Green in the Senate and Representatives Jay Reedy and Bill Sanderson in the House. What that piece of legislation does is create a task force. And reading from the bill, the task force is to review the detrimental effects of invasive Asian carp and recommend any necessary statutory revisions that should be made to protect the waterways and native species of this state from any such detrimental effects. The task force is going to be made up of 9 members. 3 of those members will be appointed by the Lieutenant Governor, 3 by the Speaker, and 3 by you as the Commission. The members appointed by the Speaker and the Lieutenant Governor will be members of the General Assembly, so we'll have 3 members of the House, 3 members of the Senate, and then 3 members of the public to be appointed at your discretion. So this task force has to convene and meet on or before July 1st. That's why it's before you here at the May meeting, as the Commission's not meeting in June. The task force will then spend the next 6 months conducting meetings, hearing testimony, investigating this Asian carp issue that we have. The agency, I will tell you that the agency is to serve as the administrative guide for the task force. We'll handle some of the setting up of the meetings, and certainly our experts will be presenting information to that task force. With that, Mr. Chairman, look to you for recommendations on the appointees from the Fish and Wildlife Commission.
Thanks, Chris. The 3 names that we have as a committee, and I'll bring this up for a committee vote, but I'm gonna tell you the names and a little something. Most everybody in here knows 2 of them. The first nominee would be past Tennessee Fish and Wildlife Commission Chairman Jeff Griggs. Also the CEO of Tennessee Wildlife Federation, Mike Butler. And the third one is Ben Duncan. Some of you might not know Ben, but Ben's a part-time commercial fisherman from over in Dover, Tennessee. His dad operates a fish market there, and most importantly, he's also, or in my opinion, he's on the Commercial Fishing Advisory Steering Committee. We've got our hands full with Asian carp. Frank Fisk, I feel sorry for him. I mean, you have got a big job ahead of you, trying to figure out if there is a solution to this. But anyway, that's the 3 names I would submit to the committee if somebody would like to make a motion that we approve those 3.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. All in favor on the committee, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
We're going to go back in session, but before we vote on this as a commission, we have a little more business to cover today. With that, we're going to take a coffee break. Whether you need coffee or need to get rid of coffee, we're going to take a coffee break. We'll reconvene in 10 minutes. Thank you.
One second.